Hi, everybody. Today we're going to review some of the topics that we've done in this unit. You definitely are going to want to practice some more, and there is an additional review available for you on OMHS. It has more practice problems, and it also has a video that corresponds to it. But today in class, we are going to review. If you find yourself needing some extra help, please remember that office hours, the voluntary small group session, plus the required one if you're required to go to it, and even emailing for extra help are all options. So when we are doing the activity that is posted to OMHS, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to try the problem, and then I will go over it. So we're going to start with problem 1. And this is actually a math lib. So eventually you'll get all these answers that you'll fill into the short story and make a silly little story. What's important to me though is that you know how to do the math. And if you want to fill the words into the silly story, you are welcome to do that. But let's start with number 1. Go ahead and try it now. Okay, so for number 1, you should have set up a proportion that said 11x minus 4 over 60 equals 70 over 50. If you flip-flopped it and you said 60 over 11x minus 4 equals 50 over 70, that is perfectly fine. We're going to get the same equation after we cross multiply. You'll distribute your 50, distribute the 70, and solve for x. And I have all of my work here for you to see. It was asking you to find the value of x. You should get x equals 8. Moving on to number 2. Here we have the two triangles are similar. Again, we are going to find the value of x. So set up your proportion and solve for x. Do that now. So your proportion should be x plus 5 over 12 equals 4x minus 1 over 20. Don't forget to put those expressions in parentheses so that you remember to distribute. And you should get x equals 4. If you would like to check your work with mine, you're welcome to pause the video and check your work. If you need extra help with this or extra help with setting it up, put a star next to this one so you know to bring it to office hours. In this figure, we're going to solve for x again. We've got some triangles that overlap, and we're going to set up a proportion and solve for x. I recommend redrawing the picture. You can redraw it on a wipe-off board, on a scrap piece of paper, whatever you need. Do this problem now. So here you can see that I redrew the picture, triangle MPN and triangle MQR, and I put all the given information in those triangles. There were two ways you could have solved this problem. You could have chosen to say 27 over 72 equaled 4x minus 4 over 64, or you could have said 36 over 96 equals 4x minus 4 over 64. Both would be correct. When you cross multiply and solve for x, you actually end up getting the same x value. So whichever way you chose, just go ahead and check your work. Make sure you got x equals 7. In number 4, we're going to solve for x. This one's a little bit trickier. Go ahead and try it, and then I'll explain. So in this one, we couldn't use the side splitter theorem because we didn't have an expression to represent this piece right here. So I had to do something different. Remember that with parallel lines, corresponding angles are congruent. So I knew that this angle was congruent to this one, and this angle was congruent to this one because they're corresponding. So now my triangles are similar by angle, angle. So when I redrew my triangles, I drew the small guy, 15 and 20, and then the larger triangle. The length of this whole side is 36 plus 15, which is 51. And the length of this whole side is 6x minus 7. Once I had those redrawn, I was able to set up a proportion. 15 over 51 equals 20 over 6x minus 7. If you need to pause your video and fix your work, please do that now so that way you can get the correct answer. Once you have the answer, you can go ahead and check it with mine. And we'll move on to number 5. In number 5, we can use the side splitter theorem because we know the length of each piece on the sides. So go ahead and try using the side splitter theorem here. So using the side splitter theorem, I can say 5 over 15 equals x minus 6 over x plus 2. If you had these flip-flopped, 5 over 15, x plus 2 over x minus 6, that's fine. When we cross multiply, we're going to get the same equation. Don't forget to distribute that 15 and that 5, and we're going to solve for x. You should get x equals 10. In number 6, I have some parallel lines cut by some transversals. We learned that these transversals are actually cut proportionally. So go ahead and set up a proportion and solve for x. Do that now. You should get x equals 18. You can say 24 over 21 equals 40 over 2x minus 1. You could also have that flip-flopped, but you'll still get 18. In number 14, this one is a little bit trickier in the sense that we don't know this little piece right here, but we know this whole length, which means we could probably find out this whole length. Go ahead and try this one, see what you get. So this one had to be slightly different because I didn't know this whole length here. I decided to say, all right, this piece 24 is going to correspond to the whole length, which means this piece 16 is going to correspond to this entire length, which is 26. There is a different way to do this. You could have written an expression for this piece and said that this was 3x minus 27 and solved that way. And that's okay if you did, because we still get 14. So a slightly different method that I used here was I said that the 24 will correspond to the whole side and the 16 will correspond to the whole side. This works also. And number 8, we want to find the perimeter of DEF. I don't know the length of DF or DE, but I can use this triangle and what I know about similar triangles to find those lengths. Try finding the length of DF and DE, and then find the perimeter of this whole triangle. Do that now. So I called DF x and DE y. So I set up my proportion and I said that 12 over 14 equals 24 over y equals 30 over x. And when I was doing this, I wasn't completely concerned about whether BA corresponded to DE or BC corresponded to DF. If I got these mixed up, it wouldn't truly matter because I'm still going to get the same numbers to add up for the perimeter. So if I had those flip-flopped, and I very well may have, it wouldn't change the perimeter. So that's good news. So I used the first two fractions for my proportion and solved for y. And then I used the first and the last to solve for x. So I got one side is 28 and one side is 35. And then the perimeter of this whole thing will be those three sides added together, 77. In number 9, it tells me the height or the altitude of the first triangle and the height and the altitude or the altitude of the second triangle. It doesn't tell me the length of any of these three sides. So you might want to call them variables, x, y, z, or a, b, c, or whatever floats your boat. Set up some proportions and solve for each missing side. Then you can find the perimeter of triangle FGH. Try that now. So I called my sides x, y, and z. I know that the altitudes are proportional to the sides. So I know that 42 over 28 will have to equal x over 34, which will have to equal y over 50, and will equal z over 44. So I used my 42 over 28 and I compared it to each of these three ratios. And I solved for each of my variables just by cross multiplying. I got that FH was 51, FG is 75, and HG is 66. Once I know those three lengths, I can add them together to find the perimeter of triangle FHG, which is 192. And the last one, number 10, I see an angle bisector here. Let's practice what we know about an angle bisector in a triangle, set up a proportion, and solve for x. Do that now. So in my triangle, I know that this piece has to be 14. Since this piece is 10 and the whole thing is 24, 24 minus 10 gives me 14. So I can set up the ratio 10 over 14, 2x minus 3 over 21, and set them equal for my proportion. I cross multiply, not forgetting to distribute that 14, and I get x equals 9. Hopefully this helped answer some questions you may have had throughout the unit and giving you some extra practice problems. If you're stuck on any of these, or you get stuck on any of the other review problems, please make sure that you are asking questions so that you can do well on the test. Today's attendance quiz word is office hours. If you need extra help, then you should attend office hours. Nobody's going to judge you for asking for help, and it will greatly benefit you if you need that help. So the attendance quiz word is office. Please spell the word correctly on the quiz. Office. I hope you all have a great day.